You are highly you're highly welcome to the class tonight. And this evening we're going to be looking at
Okay, sir.
few topics. We're going to be looking at few topics this evening. We're going to be looking at Python statements, and we're also going to be looking at, apart from the Python statement, we're going to be looking at
Okay.
indentation, comments, Python variables, Python constants, and also we're going to go ahead to look at take few examples on each of the topic mentioned I just mentioned, and also we're going to look at Python data types. There are various types of data types, and you need to understand each of these data sets,
Okay.
and then also get handy with them and know how to use them effectively. So few of those data types are what we have also mentioned before, but I'm going to look at them briefly in depth. I'm going to look at the Python numbers, the Python list, the Python tuples, the Python strings, Python set, and Python dictionary. I don't know if we'll be able to exhaust this evening, but if it's not possible, wherever we stop, we can continue. Okay? Is that okay? All right. So now, I'm going to go ahead and I'll just go ahead and share
All
my
right.
screen. I'll just go ahead and share my screen, and then sharing my screen. I am right on the
Okay, sir.
I'm right on my PyCharm IDE, and I'll be using this to explain everything I have to say. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the Python statements. Python statements, and then in the Python statements, there are various types of statements we can actually come across in the course of our writing codes we're using the PyCharm, and not just the PyCharm, in all any other programming language. But since we are using PyCharm, we are very particular about this. So there are a lot of statements we can actually make as we write our codes. I'm going to be citing few examples. Now, I can say, okay, if I say name equals to Emmanuel, for instance. If I write name equals to Emmanuel, this is a very good example of a statement. It's a very clear example of a statement. And what we call this assignment statement. Okay, we call this assignment statements. Assignment in the sense that the variable name here has been assigned a value, and this is a string. Is a string. I think by now you should be getting used to what a string is, and you should be able to see a string and identify that
Yes.
this is actually a string. So
Yes.
I said the variable name has been assigned a name, okay, and the name is Emmanuel. So that is what we call an assignment statement. And in the course of writing codes using the Python programming software application here, we will be dealing with a lot of assignment statements. So when you come across them as a programmer, you should be able to know that yes, this is actually an assignment. So if this is assigned, you can go ahead and print this and expect an output. If I want to print this, I'm going to print my variable name. Okay, if I just go ahead and print my variable name, I should have my output effectively and successfully executed. Okay, so I have Emmanuel printed out there. You can see it printed out down here in our console. So this is a very good example of assignment statements. And there are other statements we are going to come across in the course of our lessons. As we progress in this lesson, there are other type of statements we are going to come across in the course of our using Python programming language. For instance, we have the if statement. Okay, we have the if statement. I can say x is equals to 5. For instance, I can clean this. Okay, sorry, we'll go back to my constant.py. Okay, I can just clean this. Then I can say x is equals to 5. Okay, if I have this, okay, if I have this, I'll just say if x equals to 5. Okay, print x. Print x. So this is a good example of my if statements. If I go ahead to run this, I should expect x to be printed out, and x is 5, so 5 has been printed out here. So this is a good example of if statement. Okay, if statement. So also we also have the for statements. The for statements. Okay, these are actually iteration statements. Iteration in the sense that they is a looping statement. It is used to a kind of buttress a loop. Okay, it's a loop situation where you have to repeat an item. So I can say, for instance, if I have a list, of items, I can say I can have a list of items. I can call it name. Then I say name equals to. In that list, I may have short names done in the lists. I may have Sarah in the list. Sorry, this should be in quotes. All strings must be in quote, please take note of that. Then I may have Timothy, sorry, in quote also Timothy in the list as well. So I may also have let me say which other name. Okay, let's say I have Dorcas in the list. How do you spell Dorcas? Dorcas in the list. Okay, and so on and so on. Okay, this is a list. This is a good example of a list. I can use a for statement to print out everything I want in that. I can say for, okay, for name. Let me just name these names because there are more than one name, so I'll just name my variable names. I can say for name in names. Okay, for name in names. So I'm using a for loop now. Okay, I can say print name. Okay, print name. Okay, so if I have that print name and run this, you can see our outcome here, right? Everything in that list has been printed out. So you can see the first thing we have in the list is that was Dan. We have Dan in the list, and then secondly we have Sarah, then we have Timothy, and also we have Dorcas in the list. So I use the for loop to bring out every item on that list. So you can see that Dan, Sarah, Timothy, Dorcas has been printed out, executed on our console. So that is another type of statement you can find in Python. Okay, we have also the while. Okay, we have the while statement as well. Okay, the while statement is also an iteration statement. You use it to a kind of, if you want to loop through a set of numbers, you can actually use your while statement. Okay, for instance, say x equals to 5. Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Dorothy? You can hear me, right? Okay, you can say x equals to 5, then while x.
Yes.
Okay, while x.
Yes.
While x is let me say while x is less than 4. While x is less than 4, for instance. Okay, there is a print x, for instance. So this is our while loop. Okay, in our while loop you use it also for iteration. So it gives you a code here. I told you that when you have exit code 0 means that what? That your code is okay. but it's not giving an output because of the conditions you have there. You say x is equals to 5, while x is less than 4. Okay, print x, but you know that x is not less than 4, right? So that is why nothing was given out. So if I decide to change my x to 3, okay, I can still go ahead and run the code and see what it gives me. So now I've changed it to 3, and I know that 3 is less than 4. It is printing 3, come to, okay. Okay. So like I said, this is what we call an infinite loop, and I believe you can see my screen. Yes, an infinite loop. So we have actually used few of the Python statements. There are more, but we just use few of them, and as we progress in our course, we should be able to fully exhaust all the statements. But you should be, what is very important is that you know the statement types, but the ones shown to you are the basic statement types you're going to be seeing in the course of our program. I'll just stop this program. Okay, I will stop this. So it's just the basic one, okay, the basic ones you're going to be using. So what is important is that you should be able to come across any statements and know the type of statements you're dealing with. You should know when you're using an assignment statement, an if statement, a for statement, and a while statement. So that is very important. Okay, that is very, very important. So now the next thing we're going to be looking at is indentation, Python indentation. Indentation is very, very important as we progress in our coding journey. It's very important because it helps you to organize your program. That is the beauty of indentation. It helps you to actually properly organize your program. Now, when we mean indentation, what do we mean? It simply means spacing. If you're using, for instance, you're using your Microsoft Word, and you should know that most times you want to space paragraphs, or you want to space particular part of your text. So the indentation, the simple meaning of indentation, it simply means that what you're spacing a particular line of code. And I want to explain that you always indent a code each time you use a function, or each time you are introducing a block of code. You are what follows, the next line is going to be indented. I'm going to explain this. Now let me use what we have here to explain. We have given a while statement. We've written a program that contains a while statement. The first statement you're seeing, x equals to 3, is actually an assignment statement. Then the second line you're seeing there in line number 2 there is a while statement. Okay, and then the last one you're seeing is a print statement. The print is also a type of statement. Now you notice that this is a function, and you can see the color change, and also this color makes it unique, and it's telling you that you are actually introducing a function. And after the introduction of a while, a for loop, or your if function, a column, it always ends with a column, and each time it ends with a column, the next line that follows will not start at the beginning of this line. Okay, it will be indented, meaning that there will be a space. And that space, the convention in Python program is that it's going to be 4 spaces. You're going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be 4 states. So that is the principle and the standard. If I take this back now, if I take this back and run my program again, let me see what happened. It's going to give me an error. Okay, you can see that we're having an error. What type of error is this? It's called an indentation error. I think in the last class we talked about errors, and I told you that there are so many or various types of error you can actually come across as you keep using your Python program.
Yeah.
We talked about the name error, we talked about the runtime error, and in this case now we're having the indentation error. We also talked about the syntax error. There are a lot of other errors you can actually come across while you use your Python program. Now when it says indentation error, with your experience and understanding, you should be able to know that it's talking about the spacing that follows after the introduction of the while statements. So and now with the understanding you have, you know that the moment you have a while statement, the next line that will follow will not start from the beginning. There will be 4 spaces from the start point. So we're going to move that 4 spaces. Now I'm going to use my space. Please just give me a few minutes, please. Okay. So that's just it. All right. So I'm going to use my tab. I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now I've moved 4 places, so I will just go ahead and run the program again. Now the program is running very well. Why? Because I've corrected that by correcting the indents. That is what just happened. Okay, are you following? Are you following? Okay.
Yes, sir.
I believe you followed. So now,
No problem.
yes. So
No
we just
problem.
okay. So we just talked about the indentation, and I believe the explanation is actually very clear. The explanation of the indentation, I believe, is clear enough, and there is no there is no difficult thing about it. It's just for you to
Yes,
understand
yes.
that
It's
yes,
clear.
it talks about the space. So the other thing, the next thing we're going to look at is what we call Python comments. Okay, Python comments. So on this, I'm going to write few comments. But before I write the comment, I'm going to explain the meaning of Python comments. So Python comment is used in the Python program to explain what your program is all about. Okay, Benson. So just to explain what it's all about, for instance, it always begins with the hash sign. Okay. The Python comments always begins with the hash sign. Okay, hash sign. So this is it. So it always begins with the hash symbol. That's the hash sign. And the thing about the Python comment is that your Python comment is not part of your program. And when I mean it's not part of your program, it's not part of the code you're writing. The reason is because it is not recognized when you are running your code. Yes, it is not recognized. And the moment Python comes across a comment, it immediately skips over that comment to the next line of code. So the question now is what is the use then of the Python comment? The very simple use of the Python comment is that it helps you, or you can actually, it helps you to kind of leave a footnote or few notes that will explain everything about your program. Yes. Now, at every phase of the program, you can actually write, you can just drop a comment at every phase of the program that will help you, so that when next you come across that program, you'll be able to easily recall and still follow through without trying to crack your brain to understand what's actually happening with the program. Most times, as a programmer, you write programs over a very long period of time, and you want to visit the program again to go through it. With the comment you've written, it actually makes it very easy for you to follow through the code, understand every line of it without any confusion. So that is the beauty of the Python comment. And apart from you, the coder or the programmer, you can also, somebody can also pick up your code as a source code and be able to go through your code and then fully grasp and understand what your code is all about. So that's the beauty of the Python comments. So it's a very good practice in Python programming for you to always write comments at every phase of the block of codes you're writing. It's a very good practice for you to always write comments. If you leave comments, it's a very perfect guide. It will be a very perfect guide for you. Yes. So that's just all about a comment. And the very simple way, like I said, to write a comment is by beginning a comment with an hash sign. And I told you that when Python is running a code, it just skips over the comments. Yes, the comment is not part of your code. So this is something you need to understand as well. Then the next thing we're going to look at is the Python variables. Python variables. So like the name implies, variable means something that changes, okay, changes. For instance, you assign a value to a variable. A variable is kind of a store of value. It's kind of a store of value. For instance, you say website, and then you just go ahead and say, and you want to write a website, you say google.com, for instance, google.com is a website. Now this is a website, and the google.com that's been written there is actually a store of value. Okay, now google.com has been stored in the variable website. If I want to get the google.com, I'll simply print it out. Print, okay, I'll just say print website. So it's going to give me the string google.com. Okay, so it's giving me the string google.com. So that is what I have there as website. So the website, the word website there is what we call the variable. Variable in the sense that this is just like a bag, and inside this bag you have an item inside the bag. What is the item you have there? Google.com is the item. It's a variable because you can remove this item and drop another item inside. Okay, now you can remove that and drop another item inside. For instance, you can say, I can come here now, I can come here and say website again, websites, okay, equals to whatever I want to write. I can say image, for instance, image.com. okay, assuming this is a website, image.com, and I say print website again, print websites in parentheses, websites. Okay, so let me run this and see what happens. Okay, if I run this now, I'm having two outcomes. The first outcome is the google.com, the second one is the image.com. Now variable means something can actually change. It is not constant, it can change. At this particular instance, the value, okay, the value stored in the website at this instant is the google.com, and then in this instance you're having image.com stored in that same word website. Okay, in that same word website. So you can see that this actually changes. Okay, it changes, and that is why it is called variable. That's why it's called variable. So this is very, very important. It's important you note this down. Very important you note this down. So good. So also in Python variables, you can assign multiple variables to multiple values. In Python variable, you can assign multiple variables to multiple values. For instance, I can say, I can just, let me just erase this, please. Don't worry, I'm recording this, so you'll still have them. I can actually have multiple variables. I can say a comma b comma c to be equals to 3 comma 4 comma 6. So what I just did now, I simply assign multiple variables to multiple entities as well. So let me just ask Python to print these variables one after the other. I can say print a, okay, print a, okay, print b, then print c. Okay, let me go ahead and run this code and see what happens. I'm printing a, b, and c. Now I'm printing a, b, and c, and what do I have as my outcome? 3, 4, and 6 have been printed out. 3, 4, and 6 have been printed out as my outcome. And what is happening here? Let's go back and see what is happening here. We see that 3 variables, okay, 3 variables a, b, c have been assigned 3 values 3, 4, 6. Now a, Python recognizes that a is for the first constant here, for the first entity here, b is for the second one, and c is for the third one. So in that order, these entities have been assigned to these variables, and this is what we call multiple variable assignment in Python programming language. So this is allowed. Okay, the another thing we can also do, we can assign multiple variables to just one entity. Okay, I can say a equals to, in order not to conflict what I have there, I will just erase this. I want to assign multiple variables to one entity. I can say a is equals to y equals to z, for instance, and this will be equals to, in quotes, it's going to be equal to same. Okay, all right, equals to same. So let me go ahead and print these values. I'll say print a, print y, print y, print z. Okay, so if I run this, what should be my output? Right, you can see that we're having same appearing 3 times. So this simply means that you can also you can assign multiple variables to one entity, and you have it printed out. So simply, variables are actually store of values, but what is there is that the values can actually change. It can change. It's just like a bag containing books, and then in that bag of those books, you can take one out and replace that immediately. You can take that and replace at any time as you wish. Yes, so that is what happens. Okay, so variables can actually change. It can change, so just bear that in mind. But variables are actually different from constants. Variables are different from constants. Yes. That is the next thing we're going to look at. Constants. A constant is a type of variable where values cannot be changed. That is the difference between a constant and a variable. This brings us to Python constants. What is a Python constant? A Python constant is actually a kind of form of variables, but in this case, the values cannot change. It's a store of value, and the values are unchangeable. Okay, good. So now, we are going to do something. I'm going to explain to you something about a constant. Like I said, I want to call your mind back to the general understanding in sciences. It's not going to be a deep one, but something you can actually comprehend in a very simple way by a very simple illustration. For instance, we have a constant in mathematics we call pi. Pi constant. Pi is 3.142. Pi is a general constant, global constant, and anywhere in the world, the value of pi remains the same. It doesn't change. Whether in Nigeria, you're in US, we're in the European country, the Asian continent, wherever you are, African continent, and everywhere, the value of pi remains the same. In whatever language you want to present pi, it's still the same 3.142. The same thing applies to gravity as well. Gravity remains the same. 9.8 is the value of gravity. So our constants are not written the way we have just written this. We just wrote the variables here. Our constants are written in what we call a module. Okay, our constants are written in what we call a module. Okay, and the module. Hello, Dorothy. Are you listening? Okay. All right. So the constants are written in a module, and then they are later imported.
Yes, I'm listening.
Very good. Yeah. So the constants are written in form of a module, and when I mean a module, I mean a file. You write them in a file, and then you go to another file to import them into that file where you can use them. So there are actually user-made modules, and also there are inbuilt modules into Python programs. Then you also can make your own module. You can actually kind of make your modules. We're going to do that in this class, hopefully. We're going to do that. And to do that quickly, we're going to create a module in this environment now. We're going to call it constant. Already I created this. I had a constant here, though I deleted that. But I'm going to create another one, constant 2.py. I will just go ahead to create that. So I'll go to my file. I'll go to my file. I'll go to new. Okay, I'll go to new. Then I'll click on file. I want to create a file. I'm going to call it constant because I want to store a constant in this file, constant 2.py. Now I believe you understand why I'm adding a .py at the back of my file. I told you the other day that if you're saving any file in Python, there must be an extension of .py. Without the extension, Python will not recognize that file. That is why I am putting the extension. Yes, so I'm having a .py extension in my file. Then I will just hit my enter button and my file is saved. Okay, my file is actually saved. So I'm having my file saved. So I'm having my file saved, so I have my file there. Okay, sorry, Dorothy, I had a constant py. I had a constant 2.py file before, please. Okay, I had it before. I just saw it now. I had it. Yes. Okay. Now, okay. Let's assume we just created this. Okay, for us to create a module. I want to delete what I just created. Let me delete this. I'm going to delete the one I created now because there is no need for it since I had that the same name. So I just go ahead and delete that. Okay, save delete. Okay, so that is gone. I just deleted that. Okay, so I have a constant 2.py here. Okay, I think I deleted the old one. Okay, no problem. So let's go ahead and create a constant. This is the file we just created. I deleted the old one, so I'm just going to create a new one. Now, we have so many constants, but we're picking two as example this evening. The first one is the pi constant. I'm going to store it in capital. Pi is pi. Pi is equals to 3.14 to 3.142. Okay. Now the next I'm going to create is the gravity constant. Gravity is equals to 9.8.